Flying out of the Australian twilight is one of the most successful mammals on the planet. The bat. They're the second largest order of mammals after the rodents, and the only ones capable of sustained flight. One group of bats, the flying foxes, are among the most gregarious of their kind, living communally in noisy tens of thousands. Spending their time feeding, fighting for dominance, and indulging in a rather torrid love life. They're found roosting in the trees across Australia, a vast island continent, home to some of the most unusual and fascinating animals on the planet. These are the secrets of the flying fox. Cutting a lush green swathe through the bustling metropolis of Sydney, Australia, is Centennial Park. In among its lofty treetops live around 20,000 flying foxes. They got this name because their long muzzles give them a foxy appearance. They're members of an ancient species. Fossils of their ancestors date back around 58 million years. There are 4 kinds of flying fox in Australia, but these grey-headed flying foxes are the most numerous. They have a distinctive gingery collar and, unlike other fruit bats, fur that goes all the way down to their feet. With a wingspan of more than a metre, they're the largest fruit-eating bat in Australia. These highly sociable mammals like to live tightly packed, wingtip to wingtip, in extremely large groups, all along the eastern coastal belt of Australia. From the cool climes of Victoria in the south, right up into the tropics of Queensland in the north. Wherever they go, the bats are incredibly noisy. The sounds they make are a complex form of communication. Grey-headed flying foxes have been recorded making over 30 different calls. Moving from place to place as their food trees come into flower and fruit, they're extremely adaptable and can live in the depths of the rainforest, on farmland, and right next to humans. This colony lives in a park right in the middle of a town in New South Wales. The flying foxes are so flexible, they've got used to cars passing by right next to where they rest and sleep, and are tolerant of humans. For flying foxes, the coming of darkness means feeding time. Every dusk they take to the skies en masse to find food. Their flying height will vary according to the topography of the ground below them. But their cruising altitude is around 30 to 80 metres, at speeds between 24 and 40 kilometres per hour. Many bats use a kind of organic sonar called echolocation to zero in on insects and eat them. But flying foxes don't hunt live prey. They eat fruit, so they don't use echolocation. They use their eyesight. They have large eyes, particularly well adapted to recognising colours at night, which along with an excellent sense of smell helps to identify edible fruits and blossoms. The bats have found one of their favourite foods, the blossom of the eucalyptus tree. It's one of Australia's most important and distinctive trees, with many hundreds of different species, many of them known as gum trees by the locals. The flowers are rich in nectar, and the flying foxes love them. They aren't the only creatures to come out and feed after the sun's gone down. In fact, Australia's wild animals have a thriving nightlife. Wombats and brush-tailed possums are nocturnal, as are quokkas, small marsupials. They all do most of their feeding at night. Little penguins go fishing all day, and for them, night time is for socialising. For the flying foxes, though, night time is all about getting down enough food. They have an extremely fast digestive system, and in a single night can eat 2.5 times their own body weight. It's the only way they can acquire sufficient protein from the fruit they eat. They're well adapted to eat soft blossoms and fruit. The roof of their mouth or palate is deeply ridged, and their tongue crushes the food up against it. They can process large amounts of food rapidly by sucking the nectar out of blossoms or chewing fruit. Flying foxes help spread tree and plant species. Most tree species propagate themselves by producing pollen and seeds that contain their genetic information. They rely on the wind, insects or other animals to spread this around and ensure their survival. It takes between 12 and 24 minutes for food to pass through flying foxes' digestive tracts. By the time they excrete seeds or pollen, they've often flown onto a new area, giving the plant species a chance to grow somewhere new. It's early morning in Sydney's Centennial Park, and the foxes are returning from foraging, back to their daytime roosting area or camp. Camps are the focal point of flying fox life. This is the place to rest up after feeding, find a mate, have babies, safely bring up offspring, and argue with the neighbours. Within each geographical area, they generally stay faithful to the same campsites, one camp for the summer and another for the winter. Foxes are generally pregnant during the winter and raise their young at summer camps before mating again. Out in the rural farmlands of central New South Wales, 240 kilometres north of Sydney and near to the small town of Muswellbrook, there's an even bigger colony of around 40,000 bats. Flying foxes like their camps to be absolutely jam-packed, and Muswellbrook is no exception. The colony occupies every tree, vine, and shrub available. With space at such a premium in the camp, each flying fox returning home from feeding must come into land in a tiny spot. But a large wingspan and a tight space to manoeuvre into makes landing a tricky task. They must visually select their spot and slow their speed right down using all their wing surfaces at different angles, like the flaps on an aircraft. Then hover and slot into place. The foxes need to develop their aerial skills. Often the younger, less experienced flyers will crash into branches or vegetation and rip through their wings. Bat wings are living tissue, so small rips and tears will heal, but large holes can compromise their ability to fly and to feed. Their manoeuvrability is all down to the physical makeup of their wings. Semi-transparent, the wings are made up of 2 layers of almost hairless skin stretched over the 5-digit forelimb. Sandwiched between the 2 sheets of skin is a thin layer of connective tissue containing blood vessels, nerves, and elastin fibres. To be aerodynamically efficient, the foxes need their wings to be tough enough not to tear in flight, whilst also having the flexibility to fold around their bodies when resting. It's the elastin reinforcing the wing membranes that makes all of this possible. The wings are crucial to getting airborne, flying and feeding, so the fox's very survival depends on keeping them in tip-top shape. They spend a part of each day performing essential wing maintenance, cleaning every inch of the leathery membrane. Flying foxes' wings are useful for far more than just flying. The membranes are spread out over a skeleton resembling an elongated human hand, equipped with a thumb. And, just like human thumbs, they're immensely useful. They work as handy hooks and climbing gear. They help the flying foxes scale their way up trees and manoeuvre themselves into positions it would be hard to fly into. Their thumbs also make very serviceable weapons. Tipped with a razor-sharp claw, these bat digits are top tools for defending their spot. Jostling for position is a major fox pastime. And the daytime roosts are where flying fox politics play out. Although to human eyes the trees look pretty similar, to a flying fox, every inch of every branch has social significance. There's a hierarchy within the bat camp. Males will show their dominance by claiming and defending the best spots in the trees. The highest, coolest spots in trees at the centre of the camp are deemed the most desirable pieces of real estate. If a male can establish one of these as his territory, he'll have higher status and be more attractive to females. Once a male has staked out his claim to one of the top spots, it's his job to defend it. Vigorously. Fall is the time of year when all the pushing and shoving could pay off. It's mating season, and the most successful males will be those who've put in the hard work beforehand to consistently win the high status spots. This adult male has claimed one of the most prized perches, high up in one of the best trees. It's his way of clearly signalling his dominance and superiority to the females. The mating system of the grey-headed flying fox is described as a lek, where the female decides which male to mate with based on his location within the camp. The better the location, the greater the genetic fitness of the male. Or so the theory goes. This female has selected one of the dominant males as her breeding partner and moves from her own spot to be with him on his branch. But she's not alone. She's joined by other females who've also chosen this male. Up to 5 females will form his harem for this breeding season. They start the mating ritual with some exploratory sniffing on the male's part. The female tolerates his attention, so mutual grooming is next, which can last half an hour. After a relatively long wooing, the act itself is over fairly quickly. And once again, those thumbs come in handy. The female may not look that keen, but she's actively moved from her own roosting spot to be with this dominant male. And they'll copulate up to 4 times an hour, over several days. For the other non-dominant males, mating is less of a surefire certainty. They haven't been strong enough or dominant enough to fight their way to the centre of the colony and up to the top spots in the highest trees. Being on the outer fringes of the camp in the less desirable spots means they have little chance of attracting a harem. So they need to work hard to find a partner amongst the remaining females who have chosen not to join a dominant male. It's not known why some females opt out of the hierarchical system. This lower-ranking male has been successful and found a single female. Bats operating outside the harem system are often monogamous, and these two may stay together for the entire mating season. But this young, non-dominant male hasn't established a pair bond. He doesn't have the benefit of sitting back and letting the ladies flock to him. So he's got to take his chances and try his luck with any female he can find. He uses his claws to climb around the tree, encountering females as he goes. The young male is really covering some ground, checking out every female in his path. The choice of whether to mate or not lies with the females, and they're signalling their disinterest by completely ignoring him, moving away, or using their own claws to make their point. But this bat Lothario isn't giving up so easily. Doggedly, he works his way around the tree, sniffing at females to see if they'll reciprocate and let him move on to some grooming. For a long time, it's a fruitless task. But it's vital for the colony's long-term survival that even his breeding season is successful. Although these colonies may seem large, flying foxes are listed as vulnerable. Thousands are shot by fruit farmers or die in fires or droughts every year. So the ardent young bat needs to be persistent. And eventually he gets a female interested enough to mate with him. Breeding season is a very active time for the foxes. They're feeding every night and returning to the camp in the daytime to mate. But breeding ends with the arrival of winter, and the pregnant females will have a quieter camp life for the next 6 months. As the sun gets higher in the sky, it's time to prepare for sleep. The bat preference for living in such tightly packed quarters makes for very eventful and noisy bedtimes. This is also the time when many of the bats go for a poop. For this job, they need to turn right side up. Their roost is around 16 kilometres from where they fed last night. And by carrying pollen on their fur and excreting seeds in this new location, they're spreading the tree species. The flying fox's bedtime routine involves a long checklist. Not only must they safely land, tend to their wings, defend their spot against any newcomers, and empty their bowels. They also have to get themselves to the right temperature. Like humans, they continuously regulate their body temperature. Their optimal levels are between 35 and 40 degrees Celsius. In Australia's often harsh climate, this isn't always easy, and their wings are a vital aid. The blood vessels that run throughout the wing membrane help the bat with thermoregulation. Stretching their wings fully can be both a display and a way of getting warmth from the sun. And on hot days, fanning their wings can promote heat loss. On cold days, they wrap their wings tightly around themselves to retain body heat. With such a large wingspan, there's plenty of membrane to act as a blanket, and even a raincoat in bad weather. Having made sure they're comfortable, it's finally time to get some rest. But for animals that sleep upside down, an absolutely critical preparation for a good long nap is making sure they can't fall off their perch. The flying foxes have a brilliant adaptation for their topsy-turvy life. Feet with a locking mechanism. When a bat hangs onto a branch, its leg muscles contract to pull the toes tight. It's a ratchet system, which locks the toes in place with an immensely powerful grasp. It means the foxes can rest and sleep securely, even in high winds. Another adaptation allows the legs to bend both ways, forward and back, so they can switch direction without changing their grip. This is possible because the bat's femur, or thigh bone, is twisted, and the kneecaps are reduced or absent, giving a greater degree of movement at the knee joint. flying foxes have another modification that's essential to spending so much time upside down. Their cardiovascular system. A human wouldn't be able to spend so much time suspended like this because blood would begin to pool in places that it shouldn't, like the lungs and head. Although bats have a typical mammalian cardiovascular system like us, they've evolved an unusually large heart. Relative to body weight, their hearts are at least twice the size of the hearts of other similar-sized mammals. This oversized heart can keep enough blood circulating to prevent it from flooding the brain. The flying foxes spend time upside down to relax. And if not sleepy, get some sunbathing in. They'll rest and doze for most of the day in their spots in the trees. But as prey animals for eagles and pythons, they remain ever alert and mindful of what's happening around them. In the heart of Sydney, the Centennial Park foxes have their days' sleep disturbed by aerial visitors. A group of black cockatoos is circling the camp. They're around the same size as the flying foxes and just as noisy. The cockatoos appear to be deliberately harassing the bats. They may want to intimidate the bats out of their roosting spots so they can take over the trees. Eventually, the noisy birds move on, and the flying foxes can finally, with some squabbling, get to sleep. In the Muswellbrook camp, the pastoral peace and quiet is shattered by the arrival of a metal monster. Even though the foxes have deliberately established their camp here, the noise of the train's horn unsettles them, and they take to the skies in an unusual daytime burst of activity. It takes them a while to regain some equilibrium. As twilight falls, the flying foxes are awake and restless. Once again, it's almost time for them to leave the camp and fly out for their evening's feeding. The locking system in their legs has kept them safely hanging upside down without falling all day. Now it's time to release this powerful grip. To unlock the tightly fastened feet, they must flap their wings until they become horizontal. Taking the body weight away from their legs releases their feet from the branch. There's a definite technique to it, and inexperienced flyers can struggle with unlocking their feet. Moving out from the camp in the evening to find food is called emergence, and it's a waiting contest. Depending on what's flowering or fruiting, the bats may have to travel 40 kilometres to find food. So those who leave earliest theoretically get the first chance at the nearest fruit. But they also have a higher chance of being caught by predatory birds like kites and eagles. In the end, it's usually adults like this, females with a poorer body condition, that leave first. They're the hungriest, so more likely to take the risk. Like mating rights, the emergence time of the male adults is related to their social standing. In the mating season, a flying fox with a harem will only leave his spot once his last female has flown out, so as to avoid having her stolen by a later leaving, lower-ranked male. If they're not waiting to steal the top bat's harem member, the non-dominant males will leave with the adult females. But eventually, they all take flight. As the days lengthen and winter turns to spring, the females are now 6 months pregnant and get ready to give birth. When their time is close, they segregate themselves away from the males. Birthing season is in the Australian spring, September through to November. Flying foxes give birth in daylight hours while hanging upside down. The baby emerges head first and is caught in the mother's wings. The baby suckles from a teat in her wing pit. She'll give him milk for at least 6 weeks after birth. Baby bats, or pups, can't regulate their body temperatures, so it's very important that he stays as close to mum as possible. If it's too cold, she can wrap her wings tightly around the pup. On the days when it's too hot, she can gently fan him with her wing. The pup will be very closely attached like this for the first 2 or 3 weeks of his life. He has a hook-like growth on the inside of his thumb claw that gives him a tight grip on his mum's fur. And it needs to be an extremely strong grip. For the first few weeks of his life, his mum takes him everywhere. Even going on foraging trips with baby clinging on underneath her as she flies along. After 3 weeks or so, he'll get too heavy for mum to carry, so she'll leave him in a nursery in the middle of the camp with the other babies while she goes feeding at night. He'll wean at around 12 weeks old and learn to fly at about the same age, but he'll still stay close to mum for 5 or 6 months. Flying foxes usually only have 1 pup a year. This slow population growth leaves the entire species vulnerable to environmental stresses like fires, heat waves and drought, and entire colonies have been wiped out. There's also a high mortality rate in young bats over the winter when they're less than a year old, especially if they have to cover long distances to find food. Learning how to find reliable food sources is vital for young bats, and getting it wrong can be fatal. The Musselbrook pups are around 9 months old now and have left mum. They've set up their own little area on the edges of the colony. It functions as a baby training camp. Here, they learn the finer points of bickering amongst themselves and the harsh realities of life in a dominance-based social hierarchy. They get the knack of branch negotiation and climbing. They also practice their flying skills and the best way to land. As well as how to negotiate some of the more tricky terrain, like the reed beds below the trees. Flying foxes often make their camps by large bodies of water, like lakes or rivers. It's thought that the proximity of a geographical feature like this may make navigation back home easier. But it also means that in the more northern parts of Australia, water predators are a danger, especially to young, inexpert climbers. Crocodiles will make a meal of any flying fox that ventures too close. so the young bats must stay vigilant. The youngsters master the basics over spring and summer. Then the weather turns cooler. As autumn and winter approach in March and April, they're still not expert aviators yet, but they're fit to fly. It's time for the entire colony to move north to its winter camp. Fruit bats like these flying foxes are critical species, playing a key role in the ecology of any system they inhabit throughout the world. Without these furry flyers, the pollination and seed dispersal of important tree species would be endangered. Whether in the heart of a city park or far out in the bush, these winged mammals are vital to the continuing beauty and diversity of the Australian landscape, no matter how much noise they make. The quokka and the quoll belong to Australia's most famous family of animals, the pouched marsupials. They come in every variety: grass grazers, leaf munchers, and meat eaters. Two of the smallest members of the family reveal their biggest differences. The quoll is an independent, mighty hunter and carnivore to the core. The smaller, more sociable quokka lives in groups and has a charming disposition. Both are rare, but while one is shy and elusive, the other lives happily in public view. They're both native to Australia, living in the forests and islands of this vast, ancient continent, home to some of the planet's most unusual and fascinating animals. These are the secret lives of mini marsupials. 19 kilometres off the coast of Perth in Western Australia lies the sunny island of Rottnest. Just over 18 square kilometres of limestone is covered with sand and vegetation. With less rainfall than the nearby mainland, it enjoys a hospitable climate of warm winters and cool summers. It's an ideal habitat for many creatures and has abundant bird life. Playful sea lions abound in its coastal waters. There's another animal that lives here, one that's the island's most celebrated inhabitant. The quokka. This pocket-sized nocturnal marsupial is around 40 to 50 centimetres long, with a tail 2/3 as long again. An adult weighs between 2.5 and 5 kilos, so they're around the size and weight of a domestic cat. With bright eyes, short, dense brown-grey fur, small forelimbs, and hopping hind legs. This is one of the smallest of the wallabies, cousin to the kangaroo. Although the eastern grey kangaroo is 4 times taller than the quokka and around 14 times heavier. Kangaroo legs are muscly and powerful, while the quokka's hindquarters, having to move a far lighter load, are much slighter. But it's easy to see the family resemblance when they're hopping. It's an efficient means of traversing Australia's often rough, broken terrain, sometimes at high speed. A kangaroo can easily reach 64 kilometres per hour, while the quokka manages a much more leisurely 12 kilometres an hour. The kangaroo's thick, muscly tail can act as a third leg. It helps to keep its balance while grazing. The quokka's tail is much thinner, but like the kangaroos, functions as a counterbalance when going at full speed. There are between 8 and 12,000 quokkas living on Rottnest, in the wilder places of the island, and right next to the human inhabitants. They like to hang out in the swampy areas near the island's natural salt lakes. The heathland offers them access to the grasses and plants they eat. For the charismatic quokka, life on Rottnest offers more than just food. It also provides protection. As a small, defenceless, ground-based mammal, the quokka would normally be a tasty morsel for any predator. On the mainland, it is. But on Rottnest, the quokkas can relax. There are no predators here. Quokkas are endemic to southwest Australia and used to have healthy populations on the mainland until the introduction of the red fox from Europe in the 1800s. Since then, foxes as well as domestic cats have decimated quokka numbers on the mainland. They've suffered massive population loss and they're listed as vulnerable. But Rottnest Island separated from the mainland around 6,500 years ago due to rising sea levels. Foxes and feral cats never made it here, so quokkas have evolved with no natural predators. And now, pet cats and dogs aren't allowed. There's a kind of snake on the island, the dugite. But this venomous reptile usually only reaches around a metre in length, too small to swallow the quokkas. As a result, the island's quokkas have been free to build up their population base. But their lack of predation also means their natural fear levels have reduced, and they're quite happy to coexist with the human islanders. It's getting towards sunset, and the quokkas prepare to leave the coolness of the shady spots they rest in during the daytime. Feeding begins in earnest as the day draws to a close. They're foraging herbivores and browse in family groups on grasses, succulents, and the leaves of shrubs. The females feed with their young, known as joeys. A little grooming reinforces family ties. It also helps prevent parasites like ticks. As the light finally fades, they start to move further afield in search of more plentiful feeding grounds. Thousands of miles away from Rottnest, on the eastern coast of the mainland, another of Australia's marsupials is also looking for food. But this is no sweet-natured vegetarian. This is the quoll. There are 4 kinds of quoll living in Australia. All are endangered. Of these, the spotted tail or tiger quoll is the biggest at around 5 kilos. It's the only one with spots running all the way down onto its tail. It's the largest carnivorous marsupial that still exists on the Australian mainland. It inhabits the eastern coastal regions from South Queensland in the north down to Tasmania in the south. In stark contrast to the social quokka, the spotted-tail quoll lives alone, except for the mating season. It prefers the wildest reaches of the wet forests, with good levels of moisture, lots of dense cover, and plenty of prey. With densely packed muscle, keen-edged claws, and very sharp teeth, the semi-arboreal tiger quoll is a consummate killer. It goes after rodents, lizards, snakes, birds, rabbits, and even much larger prey like wallabies. Quolls are very much at home in the trees. Expert climbers, they spend a lot of time traversing tricky branches with their superb balance. And they're amazing jumpers. Every nook and cranny of every piece of bark may hold a tasty insect treat. And the quoll will exploit every potential food source, no matter how small. Anything entering the quoll's territory is fair game. This rat is a prime target for the resident quoll, a female. Sharp eyesight, acute hearing, and a great sense of smell all combine to make this stalk and pounce specialist an efficient hunter. She has a carnivore's long, curved canines, good for delivering a lethal bite to the head or neck. Her other teeth are designed for shearing through flesh, and the rat is quickly dispatched. She has another hunting weapon, her whiskers or vibrissae. She can put her face down into a prey animal's burrow and use her whiskers to detect movement. It all combines to form a truly formidable predator. Back on Rottnest Island, the resident herbivore marsupials, the quokkas, are feeding together. Although the quokkas live communally, they do have some rules about personal space. They like to keep a certain area around them free of other quokkas. They have a comfort zone of around a metre, and if anyone gets too close, they'll make an exit. Every day, their mission is to get their quota of nutrients and moisture. The freshwater supply on the island is limited, and the standing water is salty, so the quokkas don't drink it. They must find their moisture elsewhere. This young mother is enjoying some water droplets straight from the grass. But quokkas get most of their moisture from food. The quokkas will feed on plants with high water content, favouring the fresh, juicy new growth. Getting enough nutrition from plant material is always a challenge for herbivores. Plant material is tough and fibrous and can be difficult to digest. To help them, quokkas share some characteristics with ruminants such as cattle and sheep. They have a chambered stomach which breaks down the plants. Then they chew the cud, regurgitating food they've recently swallowed, remasticating it, then swallowing it again for final digestion. This male has a preference for flowers. He gently sorts and snuffles his way through the ants to find his favourite foodstuff. Even without predators, these pint-sized marsupials can struggle to survive. Every year it's a race against time to build up body reserves. Australian summertime, December to March, is dry with little rainfall. To get enough moisture, the quokkas eat plants that have a high water content, but are low in nutrition. But towards the end of the summer, the quokkas must start to seek out high nutrition plants to build fat reserves for the upcoming winter. But they still need to get moisture from their food, so they must strike a balance. If they get this delicate mix wrong, they could get sick and susceptible to viruses. Fall is when many quokkas will perish. Those that do survive through to winter, when there's more rainfall, can shift to eating high nutrition plants. But many will never get the chance to make the switch. So although they're not particularly territorial, they will protect good areas of grazing. This quokka wants to make sure he gets prolonged access to this patch of juicy young grass. And his rival has to hop it. As they feed throughout the night, many of the quokkas will stay on the island's scrubby heathland. Others travel to different feeding areas. They use the island's networks of trails, paths, and even roads. They make their way closer and closer to bright lights, which leads them to where the people are. Some already live cheek by jowl with people, and include human habitats as part of their nightly feeding range. Like this suburban street. They've grown used to hopping the pavement, and they're not fazed at all by human hustle and bustle. In fact, it takes a helicopter lifting off nearby to finally get them to take to their heels. Many like to graze around the old army barracks. Although they're happy to move around and feed during parts of the day, the quokka is mainly nocturnal. But it seems some of the youngsters find all this nightlife a bit tiring. At first light, the quokkas start moving back towards their shelter areas, away from people, in the undergrowth and shrub coverage. For a quokka, these daytime resting spots are extremely important. The quokkas' small size has made them masters of the undergrowth, and their rest areas tend to be short tunnels they make out of dense vegetation. These provide cover and, crucially, shade from the heat of the sun while they nap. On hot days, the adult males will fight for possession of the best spots. For now, it's time to snuggle up and snooze the day away. The carnivorous quoll also likes to spend some of the day sleeping, although if feeding opportunities arise in the daytime, the quoll will take them. As well as being a superb hunter, it's also an opportunistic feeder. Carrion will be on the menu when she can get it, as well as whatever she can find whilst traversing her large range of over 600 hectares. A railbird has left its eggs unattended, relying on the nest's camouflage while it goes foraging. Rails make their nests in tussocky grass on the ground. The eggs are in the territory of this male quoll, and he has an incredible sense of smell. Males are generally bigger and stockier than the females, and have even larger territories. He has no intention of sharing. The railbird may be distressed, but there's nothing it can do. Eggs are a staple food for the quoll and are an important source of nutrition. He's wiped out the nest, but he can smell something else. And he's going after it. Nearby, a pair of galahs, part of the cockatoo family, raise the alarm. Unlike the railbird, these cockatoos make their nests up in the trees. And this pair also has a nest full of eggs nearby. They aren't safe from the quoll. A climb like this is child's play to him. His foot pads extend all the way up to his wrist and heel joints. And they're ridged, a perfect adaptation for gripping onto trees. His sharp, cat-like claws act like crampons. His keen sense of smell is telling him he's still on the right track for the eggs, but something distracts him. He comes across some insects underneath the bark of the tree. And this easy meal seems to sate him, for now. This time, the galahs get to keep their eggs. Back on Rottnest Island, the quokkas are busy feeding. The quokka and the quoll are very different animals, but both are marsupials, creatures with pouches for raising their young. This joey is a few months old, but marsupials give birth to extremely underdeveloped young. They're usually born around the size of a lentil, or in larger animals like kangaroos, a jelly bean, and they crawl to the pouch where they continue to grow, unlike placental mammals, which are born fully developed. Some pouches face backwards, like the wombats. These burrowing marsupials spend much of their time digging, so a backwards-facing pouch ensures it doesn't fill up with earth. Kangaroo pouches are perhaps the best known to humans. Powerful sphincter-like muscles keep babies safe inside until it's old enough to become more independent. But the short period in the womb versus the relatively long time spent developing in the pouch is one of the defining characteristics of marsupials. And Australia has more of them than anywhere else in the world. Fossil finds suggest the first marsupial originated around 125 million years ago in what is now China, but then was part of the ancient supercontinent, Laurasia. It's thought these early marsupials dispersed south into the other supercontinent of the time, Gondwana. This landmass contained what would become the Americas, Antarctica, and Australia. When Gondwana began to split up, around 45 to 50 million years ago, Australia broke away and started drifting north, taking its now isolated marsupials with it. Some were left behind, mainly in South America, but most marsupials were in Australia. As Australia drifted north, it didn't experience major glaciation, earthquakes, or volcanic activity. Without these to churn up and renew the earth, the soil remained relatively poor quality. This favoured the marsupials, whose metabolic rate is around 30% lower than placental mammals, meaning they need to consume a lot less energy to live. With little competition from placental mammals, the marsupials thrived and diversified in their brand new continent. Today, though, some of the remaining marsupials are having a harder time. While the bigger members of the family, like the kangaroos, have healthy populations, their smaller cousins are struggling. This rabbit-sized marsupial, the bettong, once widespread over the continent, now survives in small, fragmented populations. Its preferred habitat is eucalyptus forest and grassy woodlands, just the type of land that gets cleared for human development. Even though it's capable of producing 3 young a year, it can't keep up with habitat loss combined with predation from non-native foxes and cats. The Tasmanian devil, feisty and pugilistic, has also been no match for disease, habitat loss and road accidents. Its numbers are now so low that experts are worried about the lack of genetic diversity among the survivors. Quolls have also had their numbers massively reduced by habitat destruction and poison that is left out for foxes and dingoes. Quokka and quoll numbers are both considered threatened, and quolls are nationally designated as endangered. Unlike the quokkas of Rottnest, quolls don't have the luxury of a protected island and are especially at risk from one of Australia's biggest killers of native wildlife, the cane toad. This large amphibian was introduced in 1935 from its native South and Central America. It was brought in as a means of controlling pest beetles in one of Australia's most important crops, sugarcane. Not only did it fail to do this, it went on to have a catastrophic impact on the resident animal population. The cane toad looks like an easy snack for a hungry carnivore, but it exudes poison from glands all over its upper surface that will kill almost anything that tries to eat it. If one dies near a water source, it will contaminate the water, which will then go on to poison any animal that drinks it. Its introduction has been a disaster, and its populations are spreading fast all over the country. Carnivores like quolls have been particularly affected. Amphibians are part of their normal diet, so they unsuspectingly eat cane toads. And there's another introduced species that's also helping cause the quolls' demise. At just the size and weight of an average cat, the quolls are no match for the voracious fox. Beneath their fiery exterior, there's an animal in very real danger of extinction. Quolls need their environment to be just right. They typically choose habitat that gets over 600 millimetres of rain a year. They need the area to have good nest sites, like fallen logs, small caves or rock crevices. And their hunting range needs around 80% dense cover so they can forage for and stalk their prey. Overhead cover from a canopy is important as well. If half of this vegetation is removed, all the resident quolls will move out of an area. This leaves them especially vulnerable to land being cleared by humans for development. Their slow population growth doesn't help their situation. Female tiger quolls only become sexually mature at age 2 and die at around age 5. Probably only having around 12 babies over their lifetime. This female quoll has 3 babies this year. Both male and female quolls mate with multiple partners throughout the winter breeding season, and these babies have different fathers. This is called superfecundation. It occurs when separate eggs in the same ovulatory cycle are fertilised by different fathers. It's common in cats and dogs, and possible but rare in humans. These babies, or joeys, are 10 weeks old. Like all marsupials, she had a short gestation period, 21 days, and gave birth to very underdeveloped, blind young. They had to perform a mammoth crawl from the birth canal up to mum's pouch to reach a teat and safety. Because of this marathon journey to the pouch, most marsupial babies are born with well-developed forelimbs despite their tiny size. This enables them to hold on to their mother's fur. They also have well-defined nostrils and mouth for breathing while feeding. Other body parts like hind limbs can wait to take more shape later on, once they're safely inside the pouch. Weeks later, the babies have developed thicker, denser fur and better eyesight. They're becoming more independent. Now they get left in the cosy den when mum goes out to hunt. In another month, Mum will become more and more aggressive to them as a hint that it's time for them to leave the den and make their own way in the world. The quokkas, back on Rottnest Island, also have a slow reproduction rate. They reach sexual maturity at about 18 months and produce just one baby a year for around 8 or 9 years. So while a quoll may manage around 12 babies over her lifetime, the quokka will produce fewer than 10. The female keeps her baby in the pouch for around 6 months. After that, it will leave periodically, but continue to feed from the teats inside mum's pouch for another 2 months. Right now, this quokka female is looking after this year's young, who's around 8 or 9 months old. He's now what's called at foot, and is testing out his independence by exploring farther away for longer periods. He realises how far away he's strayed and starts back. If something does happen to her son, the female quokka has a reproductive backup strategy: embryonic diapause. The female quokka will mate again just 1 day after her baby is born, but the new embryo will stay dormant inside her. If the original baby lives, then the embryo simply degenerates. But if the baby dies within 5 months, the dormant embryo resumes development and is born between 24 and 27 days later. Quokkas and quolls are tenacious survivors. Whether they're dealing with habitat destruction, predation, or getting enough nutrition, survival is a constant challenge. They may be diminutive, but Australia's mini marsupials are a stunning snapshot of what makes the continent's wildlife so special. Whether it's a pint-sized predator with formidable hunting skills, a lovable herbivore, or any other example of these extraordinary pouched mammals, they're an important part of Australia's vibrant animal landscape.